right, and hello, and welcome to the Horror Hour. It's the place we discuss, we debate, we disagree on all things horror. I'm one of the hosts here, well, the only host tonight, Utaka. Hello, and today I'm excited. I'm joined by Krsy Fox, who you've probably recently seen in Terrifier 3, but you may have also caught her in Bury the Bride and Little Bites, among other things. So first off, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining. I guess first off, like the elephant in the room really is Terrifier 3 and just how's it been to be part of this film that kind of has really shaken up the box office in a great way for independent horror.
You know, obviously I'm a fan of this year, like all of the films. So it was very exciting in general just to be asked to be part of this. And the fact that it's a Christmas movie is like an added element of excitement for me. But it's been incredible to watch. And I was actually said this to Damien that just how many people he's inspired because of this film and especially indie filmmakers and showing what you can really do if you have a vision and you see it through. And I just feel so lucky. I love everybody involved in this movie so much. I know it seems like we all, everyone gets killed in these movies. So, but we all are like a little family and you go through this experience together. And it's just been so amazing to watch all these other actors and, the filmmakers and all the people behind the scenes get the recognition they deserve because, everybody was just so great on this film. So I just feel super lucky.
I well, first of all, I guess my big question though, because I remember watching it in theaters, I'm just like, you didn't have to go so hard with that intro because your guttural screams, I felt for you. I was just like, damn. I was like, I know I'm excited to see what's gonna happen. I'm like, okay, this one might hurt a little.
Yeah, I mean, well, with the content, are we doing spoilers in this
Yeah,
interview?
yeah. I'm
Okay.
gonna air this right around Halloween just because I know Damien had said try and hold off. So yes, I'm gonna hold off from there.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, I think just because of the content, and because, I'm a mother. So,
Hmm.
I think the first scary thing I shot was finding Timmy. And it's,
Oh my God.
I remember going upstairs and, I they had the monitor world in the opposite room. So I walked in there first and I looked on the monitor and I was like, oh, we're really showing this. Like, wow, okay. Because you read the script, but
Hmm.
you don't realize how far. And when it's Terrifier, they go about 10 times past that line that you expect in your head.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like even with the stuff I had to do, Damien drew me out a storyboard just so I could like understand really like what my body was gonna go through. So yeah, I think that it was a natural, I wanted it to feel how it would feel and to have to mentally go there, especially when I have a kid, wasn't the best feeling, but at the same time, it's
Yeah.
important to really get that across. It's the opening scene. So I just really wanted people to feel what she would be feeling. And we had like, I think I screamed 10 hours a day when we were shooting, and we shot for 5 or 6 days. And we had like crowds outside. So I was screaming so loud that we were in a neighborhood. There are all these like kids and families were like gathered outside the house. And
Oh my God.
there was one moment, and I think it was in the bedroom when he was going after my husband,
Hmm.
and there's like people like, oh, are you guys shooting Terrifier 3 in there? And they're like, no. But literally you can see Art the Clown through the window going like this. Like, and so I'm like seeing these photos showing up online, and it was just really funny. The whole thing it was just a great experience. But yeah, I think this screaming went on for a lot of days. I'm sorry to those neighbors.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, the other thing too is how long did it take also then for the setup for because one of the things that have to I think people don't give Terrifier series enough credit is this makeup and special effects. I mean, us horror nerds, we do, but I
Yeah.
sometimes feel like the industry is still not giving it its flowers because it is practical effects go a long way, and these are top notch.
It was crazy. And I mean, and obviously because they're known for it, Damien takes it super seriously. And the team was amazing. Everybody was so good. But yeah, I mean, I think just the actual axe stuff
Hmm.
was like just a day, like, because I had to wear so many different prosthetics. I think they said that I might have had the most molds done out of all the actors just because of all the
Oh, that
things that
makes
happened to my body.
you
um,
go through it in that I
yeah, it was really crazy. Like there was a moment like because obviously they did a mold of my head and there was a very lifelike version of my head and they're like pulling the teeth out trying to get them right. And I'm like, oh, stop. It looks so real, you know?
oh my god, oh my gosh. That would give me that's a thing of nightmares.
Yeah, yeah, I have a thing about teeth. So I'm very happy I got to at least keep my teeth in this one. But yeah, no, it was really, really cool, really like amazing experience because we would do it in stages. So we're like, cool, now what are we doing? Oh, we're doing your arm, cool. And then we're gonna do, your face prosthetic because when I get it in my head. So it was just cool to see it go in stages and by the end I could only see out of one eye and hear out of one ear. And I had blood coming out of my ear canal for almost 2 months, which was afterwards, which was hilarious because there was just so much blood being pumped in
Oh my goodness.
my head. Great. It's amazing.
Um, so and I have to have you had the opportunity then to also get to experience the film in a theater and see other people's reactions?
Yeah, well, so I was lucky enough that Terrifier and Little Bites both premiered at
Oh,
Fantastic
that's
Fest first,
right.
and it was the same weekend. So we did Terrifier and then Little Bites. But yeah, so we were all like, I remember the first screening, everyone was nervous and I'd never seen it, and honestly none of the other actors had seen it. So we're all just kind of sitting there anxious and it was almost like a blur that first screening. But then my sister had come to town with me and they did a second screening. So, and sorry about the light on
Oh,
my
no,
face.
you're fine.
On his setting. Um, but no, so my sister came and so she really wanted to see it. She had come to set with me. So I went for the second screening and at that point all the other cast members had gone home, but I had another movie there, so I stayed. And so I went to the screening and sort of no one knew I was there. And I sat beside these three guys and they're just like these three grown men and they were screaming like out loud, like losing their mind during my scene. And I remember I just looked over and patted him. I'm like, I'm fine. And he was like, oh my God. He didn't realize he was sitting beside me. So that was really funny.
That's
But then
amazing.
but I did go have one experience. So many of my friends wanted to see the movie with me, and obviously they didn't get to go to the premiere and stuff. And so I did go do one screening in the theater, just like with just a regular audience, and it was
Mhm.
really fun. It was just really fun to hear all the reactions and all the moments. And sometimes it's a surprise what people react to, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, that really worked, or that was really effective. And obviously, there's certain things that people are gonna freak out too, but
I knew that as I was watching this, but I mean, well, going into horror, I mean, I hate to say it, I mean, everyone's fair game, and that's been through all of horror. Like you can go all the way back. But I was like, okay, I know it could be gory and this is going to be interesting. But there were people in my theater too. They're like, no, that's not really going to happen. But my favorite is the real loud, visceral ones because there's a scene, obviously, that everyone still like. They go back and forth, like the glass scene, and the girl behind me, she's like, What's she doing? No, no, she's not. She's not gonna do that. Oh my! I was like, oh my gosh, it's hard not to laugh then at that point because I love, like, for me, I mean, it made my jaw drop. I'm like, wow, Damien's really gonna be. He's really going this extra mile for this one, but. Um,
yeah.
I still
Yeah,
think,
I found, and maybe you did too. I found myself like watching the audience sometimes even more, like just to watch reactions. My daughter went to preschool with this group, and we stayed friends, all these moms, and they don't like horror movies, and they're like, "We want to support you. We want to come with you." And so they came to that screening and I just took photos of them the entire time because they were like, one had a blanket over her head and like headphones, and like they're just terrified. So that made my whole experience just watching them freak out.
I love that. I mean, one, that's great that they want to support you, but I think it's also great to see. I love seeing people get terrified because I also enjoy if a good horror film like it gets me to jump or react. I hope somebody's also like, look at this dude, because
I
I
know.
mean that's why I love horror. But speaking of you also being at Fantastic Fest, let's talk about Little Bites because that is some emotional horror that is ooh, well, also it's kind of a one-woman show. Like you go through everything and you like just how was it filming this? Because when
Mhm.
I was done watching, I was just like, I need someone to go do a wellness check on her because oh my goodness.
It was, yeah, it was, I have to say, the most heavy film
Hmm.
I've ever done. And it was just consistently every day like that. So I kind of got into this like dark hole while I was shooting it. And I just sort of let myself live there because I knew I'm going back to set tomorrow and I need to be here and I need to live in this. So I just sort of did. And it
My
took me a couple
goodness.
months to come out of it, because I just was like, I went through a lot emotionally, and it was just a lot of like abuse physically, but also just emotionally. And just, I feel like almost every person in that film was cruel to Mindy in some aspect, other than even for the daughter, sometimes just to like question her. So it was just a lot. And, so it was an amazing experience. I don't think when I read the script, I really took in that I'm like, oh, you're in every single scene but one. It was a lot every day and a lot of crying and a lot of snot and a lot of, so but it was really rewarding, and it was something that when I read the script, I just really wanted to do this. I wanted to play a character this flawed, and I felt like the message was really important, and it was really scary. The monster is terrifying. Being in that dark room with him touching you, and it's just, yeah, it's another level of creepy.
Gives me goosebumps. Like that first time you're like, oh, because the creature design was great, but also your reaction and
Thing. Well, I remember the first thing we shot for Little Bites with the monster was that opening scene where I opened the door and I talked to him. And we were shooting my coverage. So he was just in the dark room, but I couldn't see him, but I knew what he looked like. And so I just heard his voice come out of me, and it was just like I just got like goosebumps on the back of my neck. And it just sort of, from then on, I was like, okay, this is how it has to feel every time. So John, who played the monster in it, he'd be like, "Do you want to run lines? Do you want to rehearse?" And I would just avoid doing that because I felt like every time that we would do a scene together, it gave me this like visceral reaction and so I just wanted to let that happen every time. I didn't want to be prepared for what was about to happen, if that makes
oh my
sense.
goodness. Well, I mean, God, now I feel like that was even more authentic than I thought then, because ooh,
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I thought Spider did a beautiful job with the film, and yeah, I'm really proud of it. It's exciting to be a part of something like that.
I mean, you should be, but I, it's interesting because there are so many different messages, but the one that at least that I took away from it also is that people just weren't giving her a chance as well. Like
Well,
everybody was just, hmm,
I think that's the big message for me in this movie, is that you don't always know what's going on behind closed doors, and maybe you shouldn't
hmm,
be so quick to judge somebody, and maybe instead of judging them and just being very dismissive, maybe actually extending a hand, asking if they're okay, seeing if there's, be kind to somebody. It was sort of that moment when Heather Langenkamp's character came in and she started giving Mindy advice, and it was like the first time someone had ever really seen her and like acted like they cared. And I just thought, like, that moment, I remember we shot that, I think, day 10.
hmm.
And I remember feeling like, oh, everyone's been mean to me this whole time. So this is the first time someone's being nice to me. And it was just like, I think Heather and I were both having this weird emotional reaction to each other. When the first time Spider yelled cut, she looked and she's like, "You look so sad." And her eyes were all teary. And I just remember having this like amazing moment with her where I'm like, oh wow, this is like a natural. I kind of didn't know how that scene was going to go. And it's kind of one of the most important scenes in the film because it's the sort of the turning point and the
Hmm.
arc for Mindy. And if it wasn't done just right, it wouldn't have worked. And I thought Heather just brought such a like honesty and beauty to it that I just, she's hard to not get lost in her eyes. So it was really great.
It was well, and for me, I was like, somebody's actually finally listening to Mindy.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Oh
it
my
felt like that in
goodness.
real life, sort of too. It was sort of just this weird thing where I felt like I was being assaulted all day, every day. And I was like, oh wow, someone's being kind to me now. And it just was like I had this weird reaction to it that and also just being outside in the sunshine for once instead of
Oh.
in a basement, you know.
That can also do definitely wonders.
Yeah.
And I mean, the cast alone too. I mean, you get to work with some greats. Again, Heather Langenkamp, Barbara Crampton, Bonnie Aarons.
Yeah.
You all assembled one hell of a cast. And I
Thank you.
guess what is it in terms of, again, being an independent film and getting to, get stars like that to be like, I like what you all are doing here. I want to be a part of that.
Oh, sorry, could you repeat that? You
Sorry,
glitched.
my internet charter. But when you are able to get stars like that who are known in the business for, horror and everything, but I guess had that validation to hear them be like, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I want to do this. So what's that like? Just because I believe you were a producer on this one as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. Like I feel like there's so many people we want to work with and that we have lists of people that we want to work with, but it's really important, especially when it comes to horror. Like we don't want to do like stunt casting, we want to make sure that every person is cast for a reason and maybe
Hmm.
in an interesting role that they haven't really done before and that could surprise people. And obviously all three of those women are very powerful actresses, so I'm close personal friends, especially Bonnie and Barbara. I've known them a long time. And Bonnie and I always had this little fantasy that we could play mother and daughter in something. So when this came along, I could not think of a better person to play my mother. And Bonnie has such a strong presence, and this mother had to be that type of person. So that was a no-brainer. She brought so much to that. And then same with Barbara. Like, Barbara, I couldn't imagine having to hate her. And so I was actually she was one of the people I was most nervous to work with because we're good friends. I love her so much. She's such a warm presence in our life that when I had, but she just brought it, she just immediately, I was just like, okay, like I wasn't Barbara anymore. She has experience doing that, and so it was just a really rewarding experience. And then Heather and I have become close throughout this. And it just was so great. And these are women I grew up admiring. And, obviously I'm a massive fan of horror. So it was just a really special experience to have all three of them in this. And same with Chaz, he really brought something like very special and very unique to the character of Paul. And Chaz and I are very close as well. So there's something about trying to like seduce one of your best friends and just making them sweat. And we're having this like weird experience together that I just thought he was so good in it.
Well, yeah, because again, he was also in Bury the Bride as well,
Yes.
which that is a gnarly horror film as well. Like, I was so happy. I was like, oh, people are gonna get their shit. Like, they're gonna. I was so excited. I love a good old fashioned like, revenge, take your power back, all that. I'm like, but
Oh, I'm so glad you like that one. Was a special movie because we knew it was sort of going to be just like an in-between movie, and it became something totally different. And I remember when we were writing it, Spider and I were talking about, we always knew we were going to have like sort of like this sort of backwoods kind of husband and his friends and these city girls, and we're that day. But when we threw out the idea of it being vampires and having that twist in there that people didn't expect, it became a different monster. And it was just really so many. I remember like watching it for the first time in an audience with an audience in I think it was at Panic Fest in Kansas City. And I just, when the reveal happened and the whole audience was like full gasp, and I was like, this is
that's
why you
awesome.
so exciting. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, oh my goodness. Oh man, I need to. That's actually one of the festivals I need to go to because that's literally like, not that far from me.
It's one of our
Um,
favorites. Honestly, it's so much fun. Like it's the best time, and real horror fans and people hang out the whole weekend. The filmmakers, the actors, like everybody just hangs out at the theater together, and it's just the most fun.
I
I
love
cannot
that.
recommend.
um, so one of the things I would love to know then, what got you into horror?
Well, I think it, like a lot of people, I discovered a couple movies that I should not have been watching at a young age, and I just had this reaction to them. That one of the first ones I can think of, well, the very first one I can think of didn't sit well with me, which was The Fly. I was 3 years old, and I watched it in a hotel room, and I had to sleep on the floor that night between the two beds. And I remember just he's under the bed. That's it.
Oh
And
my God.
I cried all night, and I was like, I had such a reaction to it. But then, and then I think it was just a couple years later, I stumbled upon the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I remember watching it and just being completely horrified, but then immediately being like, I want to watch that again. I want to feel that again, that adrenaline. And I think that's sort of the moment when I got really addicted to horror. And then, growing up, I was young in the 90s. So I went and saw Scream in the theater and The Craft, and those movies, they sort
Mm.
of formed my taste. I was young enough that Scream scared the crap out of me, but it was also so much fun. And I mean, I've watched that movie now like 150 times, I think. But those just sort of, and I felt like when I saw The Craft, I'm like, when I grow up, those are the girls I'm going to be like. Those are the girls I want to hang out
Yes.
with when I go to high school. I
I
felt seen.
I love that. But yeah, I remember my older sister actually took me to both those because I think I was like either 12 or 13. And I mean, Scream scared the living shit out of me. I was just like, oh gosh, they're even calling out that like it's a real person. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's gonna get me for a while living here
Yeah.
in the Midwest. And then I mean, the craft is just iconic. Like, come on, who does
I think someone asked me recently, like, what type of role would you have the most fun playing? And I was like, a Nancy. Like, I want to be a Nancy.
Yes,
If you can't be Sidney Prescott, then you got to be Nancy.
I love that. Um, wow, The Fly, like it's crazy because I always thought I was like I think I was 6 years old when I saw my first horror film, and I think it's weird, but I think everybody who is really into horror remembers like their first horror film, and mine was Alien. And I think that's why I got into like practical effects because that also just like I remember it's crazy. I remember where I was in my house, what my parents it was they were cooking chili and rice in the kitchen. I was in the living room and they're like, you know what? He's being quiet. Let him watch whatever he's watching. And that was
That's
bad
what
on
parents
them.
did back
Yeah,
then. They're like, oh, they're
exactly.
fine. They're leaving us alone. It's just leave them alone. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that was, I got away with watching so many things I should not have watched because I was just quiet.
I mean, it's funny because horror well genre filmmaking sometimes often looked down upon, but I think you can find some of the richest stories in horror, but also I think those are for me they're easy to digest tough subjects
Right.
because then I look at horror as also for the outcasts, the misfits, and so I can take from a lot of horror films and apply that to life. And that's why I love horror for that reason. I think it's for me it's a comfort. But
No joke. I watch a horror movie every single night before bed. That is what I do. It's new, old, doesn't matter. I'll revisit. I've watched The Shining before bed about 20,000 times. We have some new favorites in the house. I have a 5-year-old daughter who's obsessed with horror too. So she's really into Oddity right now, which is a funny one. It's a great movie, but funny for a 5-year-old. Um, Still trying to convince me to let her watch Terrifier 3 because she came to set and she's obsessed with Art the Clown. But I just, maybe we'll
That's
wait
fair.
or
Yeah.
fast forward through it, some of it. But yeah, it's great though, because we're all kind of on the same page. We all just love horror in our house and yeah, it's a total comfort thing. And, people ask with acting, like, why do you love doing horror films? And I'm like, well, you get to do all of it. You get to do drama, you get to do comedy, you get to have all these crazy emotional ups and downs. There's romance, there's a little bit of everything. And
There
when it just,
is.
yeah, and there's just such a visceral reaction. And also just the community. I've never been part of something that is so loyal and
Mm-hmm.
amazing and supportive as the horror community. So that's sort of been just absolutely amazing. And I've made some of my best friends I've ever had just from being part of horror. So
No, I completely agree. It's a huge community, but it still feels like family. Like you could at any horror convention, you can just talk to anybody. And same thing, I will say, it's like I've only been to a few film festivals because I get nervous because sometimes word vomit, or if I bump into a filmmaker, like I will just it's different, I feel, sometimes virtually, but and like standing next to somebody like, I really enjoyed your film. Like I just become like this meek little thing. It's crazy. Uh, but I do love to just get to see everybody interact and then really just hear stories as well. But also I have really found just a love and appreciation for independent horror, especially just seeing like sitting through all like the shorts blocks and
Yeah.
getting to really just see what goes into making this. And also again the passion I think is there for the actors, the filmmakers, and even the crew as well. Like they put so much into it. So
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I feel like, sorry, my cat's crashing us now.
okay.
No, I feel like even with our crew, they come back for every film. We have the same crew all the time, and they're there. They, I'm sure they work on things where they make triple the amount of money, but they just have this deep passion for what we're making and what we're creating, and it's something they're a fan of. And I just think that that's just so unique, and that's like specifically horror. I've got this huge group of horror friends, and we have this horror actress group that we all get together and we all support each other, and it's just amazing.
I love that. That's um well, since you said you watch a horror film every night, I am curious then just what's something this past year that just kind of like took you by surprise and you just like that's whether revisiting a classic or something
Yeah.
new.
Well, I mean, Oddity was one of them. I thought that movie really, me and my daughter were sitting there, and there's this one moment where we both like audibly like yelled out loud at the same time. That was really exciting. There's been a lot. Was When Evil Lurks this year or was it last year?
Oh yeah, I think it came out, or at least it was released this year, but oh my
Yeah, that movie, that was
god.
another one where I think I haven't yelled that loud at a movie since Hereditary. So that just, and I'm sure you know the moment. I was just shocked. And that yeah.
Oh my, I was watching somebody react to that and like they're like, don't do it, don't do it. No, and oh, I love it.
Oh, it's just I like any approach that's different. Honestly, and Terrifier 3 was like that for me. It was because obviously I was a part of it, but because of the way we shot the film, a lot of us didn't get to work together. A lot of it was like my section was almost like its own little film.
Hmm.
So getting to see everything else all together, and there's still, even though I knew what was happening, it's like I don't think you really understand what Damien sees in his brain until you see it. And then you're like, well, oh, you're really showing all of that. Okay. Yeah, I thought that was just suggested. No, it's like he still surprises me. So yeah, no, I mean there's been a lot of good horror this year. I just watched the remake of Speak No Evil. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really fun. I just went and saw Smile 2. That was really cool. Totally different take on it. I mean, there's been a lot of good horror this year, which is super exciting.
It's been a great year for horror. I mean, oh my goodness. Yeah. Also, I think with well, Smile 2 is another one. Like again, doing well at the box office. Naomi Scott just like that was a crazy performance. And also, that's just maybe more the gay in me. I love pop music. So, yes, please add that. And I was like, oh, you made a whole
Oh,
EP?
I love
I'm
the
going to go
music
ahead and
element.
take that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They did it well too, because I come from music, and so sometimes films or TV shows try to tackle it, and I'm like, they don't really understand. And I thought they did it really well. Like the meet and greet felt so accurate.
Oh, that was
Oh, you know what
terrifying.
other movie I thought the performances were incredible was Strange Darling. I went and saw the premiere of that, and I just was like really impressed.
I didn't I had no idea what it was. I was like, you know what? I was like, I hear all this chatter. I was like, I want to see this. And that just flipped. I was just like, I left the
Yeah.
theater, I go, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It continues to reinforce all these movies I'm seeing, like how horror can be nominated for Oscars. Like some of these performances, you're just like, I mean, it's some of the best I've seen all year. Some of these horror films, I literally am blown away.
Yeah,
So
Willa Fitzgerald just kind of just I mean, I knew she had I was like,
yeah,
I didn't know you had that in you. I was like, that's twisted. That was ooh.
Yeah, she was so good. I mean, so good. There's so many people I'm fans of that I like. I get dorky about people, even sometimes people I'm working with. I'm like, oh my God, you're so good. And I have to stop myself. But I'm a fan of actors. I'm an actor who loves other actors. So I get really excited when I watch another actor just kill it. I'm like, yes, you
That's
know.
amazing. I love
I
hearing
thought that
that.
about Lauren in Terrifier. I was like, oh my God, she kicked ass in that movie. I was just like, dude, it just like she made me feel like so many things at once. And I just, yeah. And same with David. David just really, it's funny because when I first got the script for that film, I was just like, I started having nightmares once I knew what I had to do.
Oh
And so I told
no.
Damien, and Damien was like, that makes me so happy. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm like, no. But then I get on set and, David is wonderful. He's like the sweetest human on the earth. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to be scared of him. But when you call action and Art the Clown starts chasing you and he turns on Art the Clown, it's scary. Like I'm telling you, I was shaking.
I think it's a testament to his craft as well. You can do so much with just and the fact that he's got prosthetics and he can still do all that emoting with his oh my God. And so I love it when he's whimsical, like when he meets Santa for the first time. I was dying. But then yeah, when he turns, I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
he's not my favorite anymore. No, but I mean art's
Yeah.
everywhere now, which I think's great because it's nice to see a new iconic modern slasher like really take over. Because somebody else said like there were kids dressed up at Art the Clown at my church's trunk or treat. I go, that's funny. I'm like, they realize. I mean, like that's great. I love to hear it, but okay, all
No kids.
right.
I mean, there's a viral video going around when David went to Spirit Halloween dressed as Art the Clown to scare people. And my daughter and I, because we just did the premiere, we were there. So I took my daughter to watch and she's like in the video giving them high fives every time they scare people. And people are talking about her like, oh, that little girl is so funny. This is so wholesome. I'm like, yeah, but if it was the movie, she'd be dead.
Oh my goodness. Well, I would love to know then, what are you, I guess, what are you hopes next? Just obviously, Damien keeps everything locked away. So what would you like to see next for the franchise? I'm always just curious.
I mean, honestly, I think he hasn't really steered us wrong yet. I think that we just
Yeah,
need
but
to go with his vision. He has a very clear vision of where this is going to go and how it's going to wrap up. And he's like, it's going to be insane. So I think that I just want to see what he does. I think like I said, he still continues to surprise me, even though I was on set, even watching my stuff done, like those scenes, I was just like, oh my God, like was so much even better than I imagined it was going to be. So I just think we just need to trust in him because I think it's just, I can't say if I don't know if I want Sienna to win or if I want Art to win because I just think that I
I love
love
them
both.
both so much.
I don't want Art the Clown to go anywhere. I mean, you
No.
should, but I don't. you know?
It's that's what's so crazy because again he's just I find it at times very campy but also he is so petty and I don't know why but I love that in a villain and
Especially
I've
in his
seen
show. Yeah.
like Lauren's interviews every time people like when he smack like that got one of the biggest responses in like Miss Greedy is just him coming up and because I was like oh man that's because I'm thinking, how many takes are they doing of that? That's hilarious. Oh my God. But Lauren's also a champ and she loves Dracula. So I love that about her as well. She's
I mean, we
just
all do, honestly.
oh my I didn't know you. Okay, well, all right.
Been to multiple of the premieres. Oh yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah.
Well, I
Neo,
am super
Neo is
jealous.
a friend of mine, and I just think she's amazing. So,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
no, like,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I love Dracula as well. Gosh, I think because we don't get a lot of the drag monsters here in the Midwest sometimes, but we do have a promoter who actively tries to bring all the queens and kings throughout here in St. Louis, and I love it. And I was
makes
just
everything better. Everything better. Yeah, it's just the most fun ever. I've gotten so many friends addicted to that show. Just I'm like,
It's
you just have to watch it. It's so great.
it's on a whole nother level. I love that because there's this concept of drag, but then I'm like, y'all don't realize they're doing their own prosthetics. This
Mhm.
makeup goes hard. You get to see nasty, ghoulish monsters.
Yeah.
Oh my god, mm, it's
Yeah,
one of my
no,
favorite.
I remember we went to a Christmas party at Barbara Crampton's house, and Neo came, and my daughter, that was the first time she met her, and she was like, she thought she's a Barbie doll, and just
Oh,
like ran and sat in her lap, and I was like, because Neo could not be more exactly of a Barbie doll that my daughter would design. So
I
just
love that.
scary but beautiful, all the stuff. So yeah, it's just a really awesome show, and I just love that it's monster focused and horror focused. It's the coolest thing ever.
Uh, I mean, and then I loved obviously the season premiere with the horror icons reimagined, and I was just through the roof. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
let more of that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you.
But Krsy, I just want to thank you again for just taking time out of your day to speak with me. I can't wait to see what you do next, honestly. Like I just keep putting out some really awesome like the horror that you're putting out, that you and Spider are putting out. It is again, Little Bites is which we yeah, trauma at times, but it's so good. I mean, it's just it gets under your skin. It literally will fester. It's that type of horror to me. Like you all nailed
Thank you.
it.
That means a lot. This is such a project that was so close to our hearts, and we bled for that movie. So seriously, that means a lot, and it's just what we hope. We hope whether it's you relate to it as a parent or maybe you struggle with addiction or abuse. It's just I think it's just an important message, and also maybe an important film for people to learn from, and to maybe like I said, not pass so much judgment on people, and maybe just give somebody a chance and give them the benefit of the doubt. And I think that there's a lot of heart in the film, even though there's also a lot of trauma and a lot of sadness and a scary monster. He's fucking scary,
Oh
you
no,
know?
absolutely terrifying. Like the design, and again, now I'm gonna have to go back and watch it, and now I'm just gonna be thinking, as you stated, like that was like, oh my God, like, oh, that gives me chills. But yeah, it's oh, and I loved the aesthetic, the just oh my gosh, I think it was a really beautiful film. But again, that scene with Heather Langenkamp, I like, oh my gosh, again, just
Oh, I'm so
somebody
happy.
listening to her and just, oh yeah. Again, people just be kind. That's, you
Yeah.
know, that's
I think
really what
that
this world needs, but
there's literally not a person on the earth that hasn't gone through something where everyone around them maybe doesn't know what's going on at home or behind closed doors. And
hmm
it's sad. And it's just to be seen sometimes as you really are is really important.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, well, again, thank you so much to the folks listening, to the folks watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please go check out Terrifier 3. And seriously, if you've not seen Bury the Bride, go. And Little Bites. Seriously, just you have to, because support indie horror, because really the more you do, the more we get more of it. Because I don't want to be that guy, but there are all these 100 $200 million projects. If we could just get more, you could just like divide that into 20, you could get, like, trust me, we
Oh,
need
we
more of
talk
that.
about this all the time. I'm like, we can make so many movies for
We
that.
could. And not only that, independent horrors where well, just indie films in general is where you can really discover new talent, new artists, and yeah.
No,
So
I love the passion that you have for it. That's how we feel. And, I am so proud of both of these films and so proud of just the response and, a film like Terrifier breaking the records that it's breaking. It's
I
so
I
much hope.
I love that. I see now, like I feel like when two came out, it still did very good for what it did, but there weren't a lot of trade articles. Now it's like you go to Deadline, Variety, Entertainment. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, we are really living in a crazy time, because I'm pretty sure when Terrifier 2 came out, they're like, we don't want anything to do with that. And now you're like, you all can't get enough of it. It's getting
Yeah.
critical praise, which I think it deserves, and I love that. But it's commercially like just flourishing. So I hope everybody gets benefits from that. And if anything, again, your intro, that went hard. Like
Thank
I think that's probably, yeah, those were the two scenes I can think of that in my screening people just like
Oh,
dread, just
that makes
dread.
thank you. No, that means a lot. It's a lot physically and emotionally on all the actors, and I think that yeah, seeing people appreciate it and also just like loving it. I've never seen, you know, a community behind a film the way these Terrifier fans have gathered, and you know, it's amazing.
I love it. Well, till next time, y'all, I'll say bye.
Bye.